You ever have one of those weeks where you're so deep in something, so immersed in a mission that the rest of the world starts to feel like background noise? That was me for the last 36 hours. My whole universe had shrunk down to the size of 3 plastic incubators sitting in my garage, each one holding a life so fragile it felt like a whisper might shatter it. Neonatal kittens rescued, barely breathing, and relying on a setup I'd cobbled together with parts from a failed drone project, an old humidifier, and enough backup systems to rival a NASA launch pad. I'm not a vet. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a software guy with a thing for fixing problems, human, mechanical, feline, whatever. When my neighbor found a litter of kittens abandoned under her porch, she knocked on my door because I'd once helped her kid recover a hacked Chromebook. That's the reputation I've built: reliable, helpful, maybe a little weird, but I show up. And I showed up hard for these kittens. I gutted my garage, built soundproofing, installed a dedicated ventilation system, ran battery backups and power monitors, and even rigged an app to alert me if the oxygen levels dipped. That garage became a high-tech neonatal ICU. And for 36 hours straight, it worked. The hum of the incubators was my background music, the soft purring of tiny lives telling me, we're still here. Keep going. Then everything died. Lights, fans, hum, beep, silence. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it presses on your chest. I scrambled to check the breakers. The backup battery system showed red. I checked the street lights on everywhere. Mr. Campbell next door was watching a cooking show with his usual volume loud enough to hear 3 doors down. The Thompsons across the street had their sprinklers running. It wasn't a blackout. It was just me. That's when I knew. I stormed outside, rounded the corner, and there she was. Linda, head of our HOA. The type of person who wears linen suits to neighborhood BBQs and thinks the phrase community standards should be carved into stone. She was standing by my utility meter with a bolt cutter in one hand and a bright yellow padlock in the other. That lock was already clipped in place. I said, "You've got to be kidding me." She turned, that smug little smile on her face, the one that said she thought she was a hero, not a villain. "Mr. Carter," she said sweetly, Section 11, Subsection B, Paragraph 3 of the HOA Charter clearly prohibits any unlicensed home-based operations that exceed standard residential energy use. "They're rescue kittens," I snapped. "Medical rescues. They're in incubators, Linda. Your usage was 19% above the neighborhood average last month. That's not sustainable," she said, like she was reading a Bible verse. "I received a complaint about an unauthorized ventilation install. I took a step forward. You turned off power to life support equipment for animals in critical condition. That's not just petty, that's criminal." She shrugged. "We have to preserve property values." That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with clarity. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to solve the problem. I called Mike. Mike isn't in my phone under Mike. He's in there as big problems. "You need what?" he said. "A generator. Big. Something that could run a small hospital. And I need it here in 10. He paused. "You want the Kenworth?" "I want the Kenworth." 10 minutes later, I heard it before I saw it. The low rumble of a 1.2 megawatt industrial generator rolling down our quiet cul-de-sac behind a gleaming red semi-truck. The driver, Tyne, who, of course, is built like a vending machine, pulled that thing up like he was parking a Prius. The trailer ended up perfectly aligned with my curb and entirely blocked Linda's driveway. She stormed out of her house, yelling, flapping her HOA handbook like it was the Constitution. "You can't park that here. This is a residential area. This violates noise ordinances." Tiny leaned out of the cab and yelled, "Delivery for Carter. Where you want the juice?" I didn't even look at her. I walked over, nodded to Tiny, and started unspooling the thick black cables. Dave, my contractor, had just shown up, scheduled to finish building the catio out back. I pointed at the cables. "We're going full bypass. Straight into the subpanel." He blinked once, nodded, and said, "I love this job." And that's when the cops arrived. 2 officers. One young and twitchy. one older and deadpan. Linda ran to them like she was a damsel in distress. "Officers," he threatened me. "He's running a power plant from his garage." The older cop walked over. "Sir, what's happening here?" I showed him the lock, the incubators, the kittens on the live cam. I explained everything. Calm, precise, documented. He rubbed his temples. "Ma'am," he said to Linda, "this padlock is a criminal matter. That's utility tampering." She blanched. "But the rules." "The rules don't trump state law," he muttered. They couldn't force her to remove the lock without a court order. But they weren't going to stop me from powering my own house. I fired up the generator. That thing purred like a dragon with a throat lozenge. The lights in my garage came back on. The incubators started humming. I checked the timer. 17 seconds left on the battery backup. 17 seconds. I stood outside, arms folded, as the neighborhood gathered. People peeking out windows, filming from porches. The air smelled like diesel and karma. Linda stood frozen, mouth open, rage radiating off her like heat waves. "You'll hear from our lawyers," she screamed. "Great," I said. "Tell them to bring coffee." But it wasn't over yet. A week later, the HOA held an emergency meeting. Linda stood up in front of everyone and painted me as a dangerous anarchist. Said I'd ruined the image of the neighborhood. I let her talk. Then I got up. I didn't bring a speech. I brought a slideshow. Slide 1, the padlock. Slide 2, the police report. Slide 3, the generator invoice $14, 382.45. Slide 4, Pip, the smallest kitten, alive and well. And then I said, "This is what your president tried to shut down." Linda was voted out. The board approved reimbursing the generator costs. And the bylaws? They're under review now. These days, the garage hums along peacefully. The catio is complete. Pip naps on my keyboard most afternoons. And Linda? She parks on the street now. Her driveway is. Well, let's just say the grass hasn't quite recovered. So yeah, maybe you can't fight City Hall, but you sure as hell can outmaneuver an HOA. Let me know in the comments, was I out of line? Should I have gone nuclear? Or was this the kind of peaceful resistance the suburbs needed? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me your wildest HOA story. Because if there's one thing I've learned, sometimes justice doesn't come with a gave, it comes with a semi-truck and 1.2 megawatts of petty revenge.